Everyone talks about the Toyota Highlander and the Lexus RX lasting forever. But what if I told you the real tanks in the Toyota and Lexus lineup are the SUVs nobody talks about? The promise today is simple. The overlooked, under-the-radar Toyota and Lexus SUVs that quietly rack up hundreds of thousands of miles, cost less to buy, and refuse to die. These are the models mechanics respect, owners keep forever, and smart buyers hunt down before prices catch up. If you want long-term reliability without paying the popular model tax, stay with me. Back when most SUVs were turning soft and polite, Toyota quietly dropped something that felt like a prank and turned into a legend later. The Toyota FJ Cruiser showed up looking like a cartoon, sounding like a toy, and behaving like a tank. People didn't know what to do with it. And that confusion is exactly why it became one of the most underrated long-term vehicles Toyota ever sold. This SUV wasn't built to impress you on a dealership test drive. It was built to be ignored, abused, and still start every morning. Under the hood sits a 4.0-liter naturally aspirated V6 producing 239 horsepower, paired with either a 5-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual. No turbochargers waiting to fail, no complicated electronics begging for updates, just old-school Toyota engineering that assumes you might forget maintenance once or twice and keeps going anyway. Fuel economy lands around 16 miles per gallon in the city and 20 on the highway, which is Toyota being honest about what this thing is meant to do. The ideal buyer is someone who keeps cars longer than trends last, someone who drives in snow, dirt, heat, or all three. Owners don't talk about loving this SUV because it's comfortable. They love it because it's dependable in a way modern vehicles rarely are. Body-on-frame construction, simple suspension design, and a drivetrain shared with other proven Toyota trucks make it feel calm even with high mileage. Most long-term ownership stories sound almost boring. The engine refuses to quit, the transmission stays predictable. What actually needs attention are wear items that make sense over time. Bushings dry out, shocks wear. In rust states, the frame needs close inspection, especially near the rear. Hard off-road use without proper fluid changes is another thing to watch for, but these issues are about care, not design flaws. The smartest years to target are 2010 through 2014, when Toyota refined the platform and reliability data became undeniable. Prices today usually range from $20,000 to $35,000, depending on condition, mileage, and originality. And yes, values keep creeping up, because people finally understand what they missed. This is the kind of SUV you buy once and stop worrying. Next up, we leave cult status behind and step into something trusted worldwide, where durability isn't optional, it's expected. Some vehicles earn their reputation in reviews, others earn it quietly, far away from cameras, in places where breaking down is not an inconvenience, but a problem. That's the world where the Toyota Land Cruiser Prado built its name, long before most North American buyers ever noticed it existed. This SUV didn't grow famous in shopping mall parking lots. It earned trust on bad roads, in extreme heat, on long stretches where maintenance is delayed and conditions are unforgiving. In the mid-2000s through the mid-2010s, the Prado became the choice for people who needed a vehicle to work every single day, not just look capable. Toyota engineered it with the same mindset as the larger Land Cruiser, just scaled down enough to be manageable without sacrificing toughness. Underneath the conservative styling is body-on-frame construction and drivetrains tuned for longevity, not excitement. Power delivery is smooth, stress is low, and components are intentionally understressed. That's why owners around the world routinely push these well past 300,000 miles without major mechanical drama. It's not fast, it's not flashy, and that's the entire point. The ideal buyer is someone who thinks long-term by instinct. Someone who values calmness at high mileage more than quick acceleration when new. The Prado feels composed even when it's old, because it was designed assuming it would age. While many modern SUVs feel tight at first and fragile later, this one does the opposite. Ownership stories tend to repeat themselves. The engine just runs. The transmission just shifts. Problems usually come from normal wear or skipped maintenance, not from design flaws. Suspension components age, bushings soften, cooling systems must be respected. Neglect is the real enemy here, not mileage. When shopping, history matters more than the odometer. A higher mile Prado with documented maintenance is almost always the smarter buy. Look underneath for off-road damage, listen for suspension noise, and make sure fluids were changed on schedule. These vehicles forgive abuse, but they reward care. In markets where they are available, prices remain surprisingly reasonable for what is essentially Land Cruiser DNA in a more usable size. The Prado doesn't chase attention. It doesn't need to. Its reputation was earned the hard way. And next, we pivot again, away from global expeditions, and into a Toyota that survived by being underestimated, overlooked, and quietly brilliant on everyday roads. All right, quick pause. Grab your phone, hit subscribe, and tell me in the comments which city you're watching from. It helps the channel way more than you think, and it keeps videos like this coming your way. Toyota didn't mess this one up by building it badly. Toyota messed it up by explaining it badly. That's how the Toyota Venza slipped through the cracks and became one of the most overlooked long-term wins of the late 2000s and early 2010s. When it arrived, buyers didn't know where to place it. It wasn't rugged enough to be an SUV, not low enough to feel like a car, and not trendy enough to spark excitement. But hidden under that identity crisis was something reliability-focused buyers dream about today: Camry-based engineering, conservative tuning, and zero ambition to impress anyone. This vehicle was built during a sweet spot for Toyota, when durability still mattered more than redesign cycles. Under the hood, the available 3.5-liter naturally aspirated V6 delivered strong, smooth power without stress, producing horsepower comfortably north of 200 and paired with a proven automatic transmission. No turbos, no experimental tech. Fuel economy hovered in the low 20s on the highway, which felt reasonable then and still does now. The ideal buyer is someone who drives a lot and hates surprises. Long commutes, family duty, road trips, bad weather. The Venza excels at being forgotten, and that's a compliment. Owners tend to keep them far longer than planned because nothing ever forces their hand. It rides quietly, stays composed at high mileage, and doesn't develop the kind of expensive personality issues that send people back to dealerships. Long-term ownership stories follow a familiar pattern. Engines stay healthy, transmissions stay smooth. What actually ages are suspension components, motor mounts, and the occasional wheel bearing. All normal, all predictable. The biggest mistake buyers make is ignoring maintenance because the vehicle never complains. When inspecting one, service records matter more than mileage. Listen for suspension noise, check for uneven tire wear, and make sure fluids were changed on time. A clean, higher-mile example is often the best value in the room. Prices remain refreshingly grounded, often sitting between $10,000 and $18,000 depending on condition. That window won't stay open forever. And next, we move into Lexus territory, where a compact luxury SUV quietly proved that simplicity can outlast status. Luxury doesn't usually age well. Screens feel old, tech feels slow, and repairs get expensive fast. But every once in a while, a luxury vehicle slips through with the wrong priorities for its segment, and that's exactly why it lasts. That's the story behind the Lexus NX. When the NX first showed up in the mid-2010s, critics focused on the design. Too sharp, too busy, too weird. What almost no one paid attention to was how conservative Lexus actually was underneath the styling. While competitors chased turbo power, complicated drivetrains, and cutting-edge electronics, Lexus played defense. Proven engines, proven transmissions, proven reliability philosophy. This SUV was never meant to be exciting. It was meant to be owned quietly for a very long time. The naturally aspirated engines from this era avoided the long-term risks that came with early turbo systems, and everything was tuned gently. Power delivery is smooth, stress is low, and components aren't pushed to their limits. That's why these age better than most compact luxury SUVs from the same period. The ideal buyer is someone who wants luxury without drama, someone who values consistency more than performance numbers. The NX feels tight and composed even as miles pile on, and that's no accident. Lexus engineers assume neglect will happen eventually, so they leave margin everywhere. Owner experiences tend to sound almost boring. No major failures, no surprise repair bills, just routine maintenance and normal wear. Suspension parts age, brakes get replaced. Fluids matter more than people think. The drivetrain itself rarely becomes the headline, which is exactly the point. When shopping, avoid abused lease returns that skipped maintenance. Look for smooth shifting, quiet suspension, and full service history. Mileage matters far less than how the vehicle was treated. These respond incredibly well to proper care. Prices remain reasonable because buyers chasing status overlook them, often landing between the mid-teens and low 20s depending on condition. That gap exists because the NX never tried to impress anyone loudly. And next, we scale everything up, durability, engineering, and lifespan, with a Lexus SUV built on Land Cruiser DNA and designed to outlive its owners. Some vehicles are designed to feel premium when new, others are designed to still feel solid decades later. The Lexus LX 470 belongs firmly in the second group. At a glance, it presents itself as a luxury SUV built for comfort and status, But beneath the leather and wood trim sits something far more serious. Proven Land Cruiser 100 Series engineering, dressed up and sent into the world to quietly outlast almost everything around it. In the mid-2000s, Lexus took a philosophy that feels almost reckless today. Instead of chasing lighter materials or clever shortcuts, they leaned into mass, strength, and mechanical margin. The result is an SUV that feels heavy because it is heavy, and stable because nothing in it is working anywhere near its limit. This is not accidental engineering. It is intentional overbuilding. Power comes from a 4.7-liter naturally aspirated V8, producing 235 horsepower, and paired with a smooth automatic transmission designed to handle far more stress than most owners will ever demand. Fuel consumption reflects that mindset clearly, averaging around 12 miles per gallon in the city and 15 on the highway. It is unapologetic, but that trade-off buys something rare today: long-term calmness. The ideal buyer understands that weight can be an advantage. Families who tow, owners who keep vehicles for decades, drivers who want reliability so predictable it fades into the background. The LX 470 feels just as composed at 200,000 miles as it does at half that, because everything was engineered assuming it would get there. Ownership stories tend to sound remarkably similar. The engine rarely becomes the problem. The transmission quietly does its job. What owners eventually address are age-related luxury items, suspension components, hydraulic systems, and rubber parts that finally give up after many years. None of it happens suddenly. None of it feels catastrophic. When shopping, mileage matters far less than care. Look for a complete service history, proper suspension maintenance, and cooling system attention. On today's market, average prices typically land between $15,000 and $25,000, depending on condition and history, which remains shockingly low for a vehicle built on Land Cruiser DNA. The LX 470 isn't fashionable, it's final. So if you're tired of buying vehicles that age fast and disappoint quietly, remember this: real longevity isn't advertised anymore. It's hidden in the models most people overlooked. Buy smart, buy once, and let time prove the point. Watch the next video and stay ahead of the hype.